The sun is shining in the sky, hardly a cloud in sight, and we are going to have a fantastic race here today.
Drivers, start your engine!
Cause we want retribution. Yeah, we want retribution.
But coming to the green here, it's getting cleaned out real well. Pace car's off, kick some ass.
There's the green flag and we're underway.
Green, 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 green. Outside, still there at your door. Good job, man. Nice and solid. Take care of yourself.
Three wide.
Here, Hawkins into the wall.
Oh, big trouble!
Crash in the back. Oh, there's a crash in the back.
Trouble.
Great job, doing awesome, buddy.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back here to the Arena Cafe Norte here in Brazil for race number 5 of the WRLA NOS Energy Cup Series. It is the Castrol GTX Grand Prix. And for the first time, it's just like what we had in the Xfinity Series, the Cup Series will be taking part in our 75-lap main event here for tonight. And this is also our first Cup race that is outside of the US and also Canada at the same time. We will be going to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park later on in the calendar, but this is our first official road course race of the season here at this 0.973 mile facility. And just in case if you weren't with us just 2 weeks ago at the Auto Club Speedway, we had ourselves a caution-free race that saw Wyatt Walker hold off a debuting Lily Cassius. That's right, a debuting driver. Almost won just 2 weeks ago, but unfortunately, Lily was not able to get around Wyatt Walker in the late stages of the Auto Club 400. That award went to Wyatt Walker, not only nabbing his second career victory in the NOS Energy Cup Series, but his first of the season. And it's definitely going to help him out in the point standings quite a bit coming in here to this race. And Lily Cassius, speaking of, she is making her second consecutive NOS Energy Cup Series start here for tonight. And it will be her first ever road course race. And funny enough, this is going to be a lot of drivers' first time here on this road course. We held qualifying behind the scenes. We're going to review that here very, very shortly. But man, oh man. This has been a pretty interesting season so far. 4 races, 4 different winners, and through it all, Tanner Parton has been able to hold on to the points lead, especially after Fontana. He got himself another top 5 finish to retain the points lead, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Our Las Vegas winner, Tanner Parton, holds on to that top spot with 138 points to his name. Then Terry Walker in second with 109. Wyatt Walker, our winner from Auto Club Speedway. He is tied with our Daytona 500 champion, Zachary Fitzwater. But of course, Walker breaks that tie due to Google Sheet Physics. So that will put Fitzwater in the 4th position in the standings. And how about this? This is something that Wyatt had talked about basically off stream, off camera, but the Walkers, how about this for the Walker family as a whole? Inside of the top 5 in the point standings with 3 of the Walkers. So how about that? The Walker family being pretty famous here in the WRLA, pretty synonymous with the WRLA brand. And there you see it right there. 2nd, 3rd, and 5th right now. Stephen Walker right now in that 5th position, having himself a pretty good start to his NOS Energy Cup career for Death Rider Racing. Speaking of, his boss, Russell Blaze, is in the 6th position. He is 4 points back from one of his cars. And then, of course, he is about 40, almost 50 points back from one of his, from the points leader, Tanner Parton. And then Trinity Anderson in 7th with 79 points. Andrew Ramsey 8th with 77. And then a tie between Andrew Miller and Eric Monaco. But Monaco breaks that tie, so he is 9th. And Andrew Miller rounds out your top 10 in the point standings. There's a look at the rest of your point standings coming into tonight's main eventer here at Brazil. And Skep Silver was one of those drivers that really needed a good run, and look at where he's at. He is inside of the top 15 of the standings. Sebastian Vaughn continuing a great turnaround to his NOS Energy Cup career after an abysmal year last year. He, in his sophomore year, is really kicking it into high gear right now, running in the 13th position in the point standings. Travis Crampton in his first NOS Energy Cup Series season back as a full-time contender since 2023. He's doing pretty well, 4 races in. And Kyle Craven, 4 races into this season, currently 6-7 points in the 16th position. Bobby McGuire gets kicked back to 18th in the point standing, so he had himself a good start to the year, but hasn't quite been able to keep that momentum up. He did run in last night's Xfinity Series race, took home a top 10 finish, so he's looking to try to capitalize on what he's learned last night and apply it here for tonight. But there you see the rest of your point standings. Emily Anderson, unfortunately, she is in trouble. 26th in the point standings. She has been dropping like a rock, as has Claire Phillips. She's kind of right back to where she was at the tail end of last year. But let me see other drivers that are down here. Ryan Davis, also Val Mosco, Rogel Dorn, who won twice last year. Alex Sanvatali. Unfortunately, that Durrani Racing entry has gone completely the other way, and that is absolutely just unfortunate to see. That number 69 after the success that they've had last year with Russell Blaze when he was driving for Durrani Racing at the time. Unfortunately, Sanvatali finding that he's got a lot of, a pretty big, massive size of shoes to fill. But he is starting up at the front of the field. You can see him on the right-hand side of your screen and the number 69 Prime Machine. He lines up 5th here to start off this race, as we're going to take a look at your starting lineup here for the Castrol GTX Grand Prix. That is Ryan Davis starting on the pole position, Skylar Taylor lining up alongside, then Andrew Ramsey, Abby Walker, they make up the second row. And then in row 3, we talked about him a little bit ago, Sanvatali and Rogel Dorn. That is your third row, a pair of Durrani Racing cars making up row 3. Then Emily Anderson and Zachary Taylor, row 4. Quentin Moore, Russell Blaze, they complete your top 10. And then it's Tanner Parton and Michael Davis making his NOS Energy Cup Series debut in the number 30. And you're going to find that all 4 of the Davis family racing cars are starting this race for the first time ever. So this is actually going to be pretty interesting to see how all 4 entries do, especially with our part-time drivers of Michael Davis and Liam Davis. Both drivers compete in the Menards Truck Series, which will return to action next weekend at Martinsville. And then Roberto Crown Jr., Eric Monaco, that's row 13. Avery Alfred, Alex Bonsignor, Lily Cassius making her second consecutive start, starting in the 17th position. And then you have Terry Walker, Skep Silver, Noah Clifton. That is your top 20 starting here in this race. Sebastian Vaughn, Liam, and Mercedes Davis, 22nd and 23rd. And then you have Ryan Little, Jerry Rose, Trinity Anderson, Zachary Fitzwater, Kyle Craven, car 28, starting position number 28. And then Rhea Tikian and Claire Phillips. That is your top 30. That's row number 15. McGuire and Oskin, they make up the 16th row. Janiyah Hill, Stephen Walker, Haley Curris, and Val Mosco. Travis Crampton, Andrew Miller. I almost said Alex Miller, but I meant to say Andrew Miller. C.G. Hull and Wyatt Walker, a pair of Walker Family Motorsports cars. They are unfortunately starting in the 20th row. So our defending winner of Wyatt Walker, or at least our defending winner from 2 weeks ago, that is, will be starting at the back end of the field, so he'll have his work cut out for him. And then Nathan Stapleton and Aaron Abel will be lining up as our provisional starters here for tonight. But you take a look at this road course here. It is a 0.973 mile road course. There's your pit road speed of 40 miles an hour. And we have some pretty sharp corners here. Of course, you got turn number 1 here, and then you have this little sort of curve, almost 45-degree angle turn here. We'll call that turn 2, and then turns 3, 4, and 5. This is actually going to be a pretty interesting night here tonight. We had ourselves a pretty clean Xfinity Series race that saw Igor Barreto nab his first win here in the Xfinity Series last night. And we're getting ready to make some more history. Drivers are strapped into their cars. Pre-race ceremonies are just now starting to wrap up. But in order to get these 40 behemoths rolling on the racetrack for the first time here in Brazil, let's get the command to fire the engines from here in Brazil.
Drivers, start your engines!
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Engines are fired. Pace car is rolling off. And so are 42 competitors here on this 5-turn road course. And this is our first one of the season, and how interesting it will be to see this race take place on a almost 1 mile facility here in Brazil. I'm excited for this one. This is going to be pretty interesting. This is one of those races that does replace the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. We will be in Texas later on in the year when we get to May at the Texas World Speedway. That's going to be a fun time, and we're looking forward to that one just as much as you guys are. But here they come off of turn number 4, heading into turn 5. Pace car is going to make the left-hand turn onto pit road, and this will put the field in the hands of Ryan Davis and Skylar Taylor to lead the field to the green flag and get our inaugural race here at the Arena Cafe Norte underway from here in Brazil. Good clean start from the front part of the field. Ryan Davis is going to break out with the race lead. Skylar Taylor is going to be sitting in that second position, and then the challenge is on for third as here comes Andrew Ramsey underneath of Abby Walker. And now Walker going to answer back with a run down to the inside. They're trying to take that third position away, and she's going to successfully do it coming off of turn 4, heading into turn number 5. And Ryan Davis jumps out front with the lead, clear of all traffic, and he will lead the first lap of action from here in Brazil. Skylar Taylor will sit in second. Walker third. Ramsey fourth. San Vitale completes your top 5. And then it's Emily Anderson, Rogel Dorn, Quentin Moore, Zachary Taylor, and Russell Blaze. Currently your top 10. Blaze going to work here on Michael Davis, who will have the advantage here heading into turn number 3. And that's going to shift over to Russell Blaze. At least the advantage will heading into turn number 4. As we go into the sharp left-hander right back into turn number 5, our final corner. Blaze is going to at least retain that 10th position. Michael Davis sending it into the corner to try to get by this number 29. They're still side by side for this 10th position. Give it to Michael Davis across the stripe. Or at least, hold on just a second. I think Blaze just barely held on. Oh, wait a minute. Caution is on the track. I see the lights that are on the safety crews. Caution is on the speedway, and it looks like that is for Kyle Craven, who has a little bit of right side damage to his car. Everybody else that took the caution flag everybody else that crossed the start finish line before the caution flag came out, they have to slow down, and Davis is going to lead everybody else back down. The first caution of the weekend is out here in Brazil. And I'm actually curious as to what started this whole thing. Looks like there's some damage to the Fastenal machine of Wyatt Walker, who won just 2 weeks ago. A little bit of rear end damage, and I see some front end damage on the number 19. So, unfortunately, this this night, as far as qualifying, went from bad, and now it's gone to a little bit worse here for Wyatt Walker, as he does have a good amount of body damage to his race machine. We are pretty early here in the going of this race, so let's see exactly what kind of pit strategies we're going to see. It looks like Abby Walker might be bringing her car onto pit road. Looks like that's going to be the case. See if there's anybody else that would be making that turn onto pit road. Zachary Taylor will join. It's like Lily Cassius is going to stay out, as will Avery Alford. I believe Sebastian Vaughn. Yes, Vaughn is going to bring his machine onto pit road. So some pretty interesting strategies that we're seeing in the early stages of the Castrol GTX Grand Prix from here in Brazil. Only a small handful of cars thus far have made that veering left-hand turn onto pit road, and it looks like Wyatt Walker, Kyle Craven are going to be joining the rest of the other cars that are electing to make some pretty early pit stops here. Looks like they try to shake up the strategy just a little bit, but first caution of the night is out here in the Arena Cafe Norte here in Brazil. Let's go back and see what happened to Kyle Craven and Wyatt Walker. That brought out our first caution of the night. And I do believe it might have been, yes, indeed, a little bit of interesting enough 3 wide action. That's actually something that we haven't seen at all here in Brazil on this road course, but you're going to see it right here heading into turn number 5. Looks like Bobby McGuire and, well, Haley Curris just dive bombs underneath of McGuire, who's trying to make a pass on Kyle Craven, and both cars just overshoot the corner and get into the, and McGuire gets into the left rear of Craven and just keeps driving into him. He doesn't really have much else of an option, and around goes the W machine in front of McGuire and Curris. So that was what happened there. I wonder what happened to Wyatt Walker, to where he sustained the damage that he sustained. I wonder if it was a stack up coming to the green flag. But this right here with Kyle Craven is what brought out our first caution. But I'm curious as to what happened to Wyatt Walker and how he got the damage that he did. Did he get rear-ended by Aaron Abel? Let's actually watch this here. There was a little bit of contact further up ahead, but that's not what caused the contact, or at least caused the damage on Walker's machine. Oh, right there. Right there. That is where Wyatt Walker got his damage. Let's try to get a different camera view here and slow this down. I think what wound up happening here was Aaron Abel, who is running as the caboose car. There's just a huge checkup heading into turn 4. Everybody else further in the back just kind of almost came to a stop, and I don't think Aaron Abel was anticipating it whatsoever. But that's how Wyatt Walker wound up getting his damage, and my goodness, that's not the way you want to start off your race here if you're either Kyle Craven or even Wyatt Walker. But both drivers, from the looks of things, are still continuing on, or at least, hold on, I actually hit the wrong button. But both drivers, from the looks of things, are still continuing on from here in the Arena Cafe Norte. But what's actually interesting enough is that Aaron Abel is... oops, I'm hitting the wrong buttons here, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize. My goodness gracious. But what's actually interesting enough, regardless of that, though, is that Aaron Abel, although he made a significant amount of contact here with the 19 of Wyatt Walker, the front end of his car doesn't even look unscathed at all. So Abel is still good to keep racing. Walker getting the rear end of his car pretty much sawed off, so he's making his way back out on the racetrack, and Kyle Craven finally making an exit from his pit stall. But there is the 77 of Ryan Davis. He got his first Xfinity Series win just 2 weeks, or at least just a handful of weeks ago at Daytona last Friday, or at least back on Friday, at least the February 13th. But here in this race, he's looking to try to get his first NOS Energy Cup Series win, just almost 2 months later. But my goodness gracious. How about this, though? But another thing to point out, just in case if you guys are tuning in, all 4 of the Davis family racing cars are in this race right now. Michael Davis right now. Just in case if you want to see exactly where all of your favorite drivers are running, if you are a Davis family racing fan, of course, again, as I mentioned, Ryan Davis leading the charge. Michael Davis running in the 8th position. Mercedes Davis running in 17th, and Liam Davis, well, he unfortunately got relegated back to 39th. He was one of those drivers that elected to make a pit stop under this caution period. Well, this is also another thing that we're going to have to watch out for here once we come to the restart. Look at all these cars that are just all jumbled up here because of these sharp corners. I would not be too surprised if there was another stack up that happened on this restart, on this upcoming restart, as the lights are out on the pace car. We're going to be going back to green flag racing with 7 laps complete from here in Brazil. Ryan Davis continues to lead the charge with Skylar Taylor sitting in the 2nd position. They're looking to try to get their 2nd win of the season. Then running in 3rd is the number 67 of Andrew Ramsey. San Vitale running in 4th, and then Emily Anderson completing your top 5. Then in 6th is Rogel Dorn. 7th is the 04 of Quentin Moore. Michael Davis, as we mentioned, is running in 8th. Russell Blaze in 9th, and Alex Bonsignor in car number 22 rounds out your top 10. Says the field is going to make their way through turns 4 and now turn 5 coming up after turn 4. They're going to be getting set to go back under the green flag from here in the Arena Cafe Norte here in Brazil. Pace car is off. And Ryan Davis, we got a little bit of contact there from Skylar Taylor. A little bit of a bump there saying, hey, come on, let's go. And Davis going to bring him back to green, and green is back in the air. We're back underway here in the Castrol GTX Grand Prix. And it's a 3-car, almost 4-car breakaway, actually. It is a 4-car breakaway between Davis, Taylor, Ramsey, and San Vitale. 5th place on back. Just got absolutely held up. Emily Anderson did not get a good restart. So she holds up a good amount of cars all behind her. And look at all this. Look at the fanning out that these drivers are doing. Bonsignor is going to get by Crown and also Aaron Abel. Or Avery Alford, excuse me. And there's the number 20 of Lily Cassius. Remember, she finished runner-up just 2 weeks ago to Wyatt Walker, and she's currently sitting in the 14th position on this restart. She started 17th in this event. She's thus far picked up 3 spots. Actually, she just lost 1, so that relegates her back to the 15th position. But so far in her first 2 starts as of right now, or at least working her 2nd consecutive start, she is doing a pretty nice job running in the 15th position. And now she's going to have a little bit of company there with Skep Silver trying to get to the inside of the Dr. Pepper machine of Lily Cassius. But he's going to also have to deal with Mercedes Davis knocking on the door, what looks to be for the 16th position. But Silver going to be able to cover the position. Just a little bit further back, Noah Clifton managed to grab a spot on Jerry Rose, so that will move him up to 19th. Jerry Rose so far is going to be completing your top 20. But everybody now has gotten themselves into a calm, cool, and collected green flag rhythm as of right now. But it is pretty early in this run. Anything could change, just like of what we saw at the beginning of the race with Curtis McGuire and Kyle Craven making a 3 wide in turn 5. Coming down the front straightaway. I mean, that was honestly kind of an interesting dilemma that took place here. We didn't even see that at all in the Xfinity race last night. The closest thing that we wound up seeing to the double file that we saw at the front of the field between Ryan Kendall and Igor Barreto, which quickly dissipated. But here in this race, we saw our first ever 3 wide here in Brazil and our first caution of the weekend. Remember, last night's Xfinity race was caution free, and we just saw our first yellow flag at the beginning of the event tonight, hence the skid marks on the front straightaway. That was for Kyle Craven that went around off the bumper of Bobby Maguire, who had Haley Couris to his inside, or at least on his right-hand side. You know, usually at a road course, usually, really anywhere we go on an oval racetrack, your driver's side, if you try to, or if somebody is to the left-hand side of you, that is your inside. And if you have somebody to your right-hand side, that is considered to be your outside. So as of right now, I mean, at road courses, I mean, we refer to the left and rights as the left and right. The left side would be considered the inside, and the right-hand side would be considered the outside anywhere else. But on a road course, you refer to your driver and passenger sides as the left and right-hand sides, just to make things, just to avoid confusion. Ryan Davis, pretty early in the going of this one, almost 1/6 of the way through this event. He has pretty much gapped Skylar Taylor. I would say that is about a 1 second advantage here coming across the stripe this time by. Or at least 1/100th of a second there. So the gap between the 77 and the 41 is currently 9/10 of a second. Well, at least a little bit over that now. But everybody's gotten themselves into a pretty calm and consistent green flag rhythm. There's Nathan Stapleton in the 97. We went a little bit wide there heading through turn number 1, but Stapleton had himself a really great run at Auto Club Speedway just 2 weeks ago. Managed to grab a top 5 finish, but now he finds himself at the back end of the field with one of his other cars of Andrew Miller. Right now, they're running 37th and 38th on the racetrack right now, so things not looking too good here for both of the NS Racing cars. Sebastian Vaughn was one of those drivers that made that pit stop at the beginning of the race, and now he finds himself back in 35th position. Excuse me. There's Haley Couris, Val Moscow, Claire Phillips, all back here as well. And there's Stephen Walker in the number 24. He comes into this race 5th in the point standings. And so far for his first season, he has been performing pretty consistently. And so far, 5th place in the standings, as mentioned. It's all that consistency is all paying off as of right now. But here in this race, it's not looking too good. Early in the going, he is running in the 30th position. But nonetheless, I would have to say things might change here once we get ready for our first round of green flag pit stops, which will be a little bit later in this event because of that caution that came out right around lap 2. So I would have to expect these drivers to come in maybe right around lap 25, lap 28, at least right around that window. So we'll just have to watch for that as this race progresses on. There's the couple of Janiah Hill in the 7, Bobby Maguire in the 18, running the sorry colors here for this weekend. Both of them right now running 28th and 29th as of right now. So Maguire Motorsports, although they have gotten off to a pretty good start to the year with Bobby finishing top 5 in the Daytona 500 at the beginning of the season, he just hasn't been able to keep that momentum up, unfortunately, and he's relegated back to the 18th spot in the points standings. As for Janiah Hill, an abysmal season so far, 4 races in, dead last in the points standings, and so far, not really the run that not another good run that she's been wanting here for tonight. But anything could change here, because maybe pit stops could be one of her saving graces for Janiyah Hill, and maybe even several other drivers that are a little bit lower in the point standings, or at least towards the bottom of the point standings. For all we know, I mean, there are some drivers that might be able to roll the dice, maybe play their cards just right. They could find themselves in a much better position than what they're in right now on the racetrack. So for Janiyah Hill, if she were to pit from that 29th position, there's always a chance that she could get a good enough pit stop to find herself maybe inside of the top 10. Maybe even pick up at least a dozen or so positions from the pits. We're just gonna have to wait and see what that's gonna look like once we get ready for our first round of green flag pit stops later on in the going. There's Zachary Fitzwater in the 98, one of the best drivers in the offline racing side of the NR 2003 community. If you've heard of NR 2003 offline racing, then you definitely are definitely familiar with the name of Zachary Fitzwater. He finally nabbed his first NOS Energy Cup Series victory after being a part of the series since 2017. He spent his first year with Fire Ice Racing, which was owned by Emmanuel Hartnett, and I believe even Nathan Hudson as well, when he raced in WRLA at the time. Drove the number 44 for them, the Wilson Security colors, and then moved over to NS Racing, which is where he's been ever since. Back when they were a Chevy team, and then switched over to Ford when WRLA came back last year, and so far this is where he's been ever since, 2020, and he finally nabbed his first career win in the Daytona 500 back in February. And here in this race, right now running in the 25th position. So this is another driver that could potentially pick up several spots after our first round of green flag stops. There's Abby Walker in the number 16. She was up at the front of the field at the beginning of the race, but was one of those cars that came to pit road when the caution came out, and that relegated her back quite a ways, and she is just barely outside of the top 20 in the 22nd position. So things possibly may change here later on in the going, but as of right now, everybody is do apologize there, excuse me, kind of just lying and waiting as of right now, because it is still pretty early in this event, and this race is much longer than the Xfinity race, just by 30 laps. So we are going to see more pit stops here for tonight. There's going to be more strategy to be played, and I mean, it's just going to be an interesting night here tonight. With the 75 lapper, with a 75 lap road course race, and I don't know what else to really say to that. I mean, the only reason why this is only 75 laps is obviously because of the length of the racetrack is just under 1 mile, but it is still considered a road course. And yes, cautions were turned on here for this race specifically, just because of the fact that there really isn't a whole lot of room to work with. You got a guardrail to your inside, or at least your right-hand side, a concrete wall to the left-hand side of your car. I mean, like, there's just walls basically everywhere. And if there was a huge stack up, or a huge pile up rather, there'd be nowhere for these drivers to go. So that's why we have cautions here for this weekend, and they didn't really go into effect, well, they really weren't any of effect last night because it was caution free and there was no incidents at all. But tonight is the only exception. We only had one caution back on lap number 2. There's our points leader, Tanner Parton, running in the 11th position. Vision Motorsports. So far, again, I already talked about it last night, but I'm still really impressed with the performance that Vision Motorsports is putting on so far in the beginning stages of the season. 4 races in between, well, at least now 5 races in on the Xfinity side, working our 5th race here tonight, but 4 races completed for the Cup Series, and Vision Motorsports is just firing on all cylinders. Of course, with John Boyd, he's still leading the point standings. Ryan Kendall led the most laps last night with 26 laps. And then here in the Cup Series, Tanner Parton nabbed his first win of the year, 2nd of his career, and the first for Vision Motorsports, and he's been leading the point standings ever since then. But Parton has been one of those drivers that has been consistent all year long last year, and still proving it again this year. Again, with that 1 win that he got back in Las Vegas, and he's just been running so good ever since then. And Vision Motorsports leading the points in both Xfinity and the Cup Series, and I have to say, Vision Motorsports has got to be, they've got to be feeling good about themselves right now. Everybody at Vision Motorsports has got to be feeling really good about themselves as of right now. I mean, especially with the position that they're in, almost 5 races in both the Xfinity and the Cup Series. Especially if you are Tanner Parton, who already now has 2 wins to his name in the Cup level. He got his first win at Mosport for Otter Island Motorsports. That was owned by Alex Graham. And now here for Vision Motorsports just 3 years later. So we're just over a third of the way complete here in the Arena Cafe Norte, the Castrol GTX Grand Prix. For those that are just now tuning in, we have only had 1 caution so far. That came on lap number 2. Kyle Craven went around off the bumper of Bobby McGuire, who had Haley Curris to his inside, or at least to his right-hand side, and in this corner right here, turn 5, hence the skid marks that you see on the front straightaway. But as of right now, no changes up at the front of the field. It is still Ryan Davis in command of this race. He started on the pole position, and this is where he's been ever since. Skylar Taylor still sitting in 2nd. Andrew Ramsey in 3rd. Then in 4th is Alex Sanvitali, and Emily Anderson rounds out your top 5. Now, another thing I want to point out here is that we have a little bit of a pattern going on inside of the top 5, but it is a color pattern. Red, blue, red, blue, red. Now think of this as kind of like, if you've played Mario Kart Wii, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is kind of like some of those versus races that you would typically run. So far, the red team is winning when it comes to how many cars are in the side of the top 5. And the blue team, that being Skylar Taylor and Alex Sanvitali, they're hanging right with the red team as of right now inside of the top 5. But that's just in Mario Kart Wii terms. But regardless of it all, Davis still leading the charge with now 29 laps complete. And I would have to be expecting these drivers to be making the turn onto pit road here very soon. Or at least the other drivers, at least most of the field that did not make their pit stops early in the going on lap number, at least on lap 3 during the caution period. A little bit longer than what they would on a normal green flag run. In last night's Xfinity race, they went till lap 25 or so. At least lap 23, lap 25. But these drivers could go just a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer, because they did spend at least 3 to 4 laps under caution. 3 to 4 laps under caution. So this will be very interesting to see how this round of green flag pit stops will play out once we get to that point. And there's Wyatt Walker, who wound up getting rear-ended by the 43 of Aaron Abel at the start of the race, and still has that buckle on the hood. He's got a lot of rear end damage. He is not up to speed with everybody else, and that is just a shame. From winning just 2 weeks ago to unfortunately out of contention, and also unfortunately just not up to par with everybody else running in the back of the field. So that is just a tough break there for Wyatt Walker, whom I talked to him before this race even started, and he felt really good about himself. He felt confident coming into this weekend that he could potentially pull off a really good pit strategy, see if he can put himself towards the front end of the field, try to pick up some more points. But after tonight, he is going to take a huge slam in the standings. So he will definitely be kicked out of the top 5 of the points after tonight. So coming around to complete 33 of the scheduled 75 laps here for tonight. Again, we'll just have to keep an eye on exactly what pit stops are going to look like and when they're going to happen. Davis still leading the charge. There's Michael Davis in the number 30. He is one of those drivers. He is one of the drivers that is running full time in the Menards Truck Series, and he actually came very close to getting his first win in the first race back for the Truck Series in 9 years. Unfortunately, lost out on that one to Emmanuel Hartnett by 4 1/1000ths of a second back in February. And it's only been a matter of time until we saw Michael Davis make his NOS Energy Cup Series debut, and so far here in this race, doing a very nice job from the 8th position. And this is actually the first time that we're seeing all 4 of the Davis family racing cars in one NOS Energy Cup Series race. Again, Ryan Davis still leading the way. Michael Davis still running in 8th, and everybody else kind of running exactly where they've been since the restart happened. So there's really been no changes as far as where the Davis family racing cars have been running in this event. But so far, things are looking pretty good for Michael Davis here tonight. Russell Blaze, another good run for him. Just been continuing the momentum that he built up from last year. Finished runner-up in the championship standings in his first season in NOS Energy Cup competition. Unfortunately, lost out on the championship to the guy that he would eventually sign to his team, that being Kyle Craven. And here we go. Pit stops are finally taking place. Looks like Travis Crampton made his stop, and he is down and away. So green flag pit stops are just now getting ready to start as we're closing in on the halfway mark of this event. Now, ads are coming up, ladies and gentlemen. So if you do not have, if you do have your Amazon Prime, please do feel free to use it here. You will get 1 month free of ads, but that is if you don't feel like paying the $5 to $7.99, depending on what device you are using. But if you do have an Amazon Prime, feel free to use it here. You get 1 month free of ads. Otherwise, ads will be coming up very soon, but you're not really going to miss too much other than pit stops from here in Brazil, closing in on the halfway mark. But as of right now, Ryan Davis, it looks like he is going to be nabbing those 5 bonus points for leading the most laps, and he is making that turn to come to pit road, as is everybody else. They are making that hard left-hand turn to stay to the left-hand side, and there they go. Lots of drivers making that election to come on down to pit road. Zachary Taylor's joining, as is Abby Walker, Zachary Fitzwater. Let's see who else is going to be making that decision to come to pit road. So far, nobody else. Wyatt Walker looks like he'll be joining, but Russell Blaze now leads the way here in Brazil. Excuse me. And right now on this halfway mark, it looks like now Blaze is going to be making that choice to come to pit road. Looks like it's going to be the rest of the contenders making their way into the pits. Travis Crampton, who already made his pit stop, is still trying to get by everybody else, who is now coming on down to pit road, being led by Russell Blaze. And Travis Crampton is going to get by everybody to get back on the lead lap. But so far, I'd say from the looks of things, I wonder if Ryan Davis is going to be able to retain the race lead, as everybody is now completing their first round of green flag pit stops. And Davis is going to get by Russell Blaze, who is going to exit the pits from what's going to be the 4th position. Just barely. Passed by the 67 of Andrew Ramsey. So Blaze will slot in the 4th spot, and there's his old ride, now being piloted by Alex Sanvitali right there in tow. Back through turn 4, heading into turn number 5. So the race lead now cycles back to the 77 of Ryan Davis. Looks like a pretty slow stop. I don't know if anybody saw Andrew Miller, but he had himself a pretty slow stop. He was still sitting on pit road just as Ryan Davis went by. But now your top 10 looks like this. After our first round of green flag pit stops, it is Ryan Davis showing the way. Skylar Taylor now back in 2nd. Andrew Ramsey 3rd. Russell Blaze now moves up to 4th. And then running in the 5th position, that is the 69 of Alex Sanvitali and Emily Anderson in 6th. Then in 7th is Tanner Parton. Quentin Moore running in 8th. Then in 9th is the 22 of Alex Bonsignor, and Michael Davis completes your top 10. There's Lily Cassius in the number 20. So far running pretty solid as of right now. She's picked up 1 spot since green flag pit stops completed. Now she's running in the 14th position, just behind Avery Alford and ahead of Eric Monaco. So as of right now, I'd say Lily Cash is doing a pretty fantastic job in her first 2 starts. And remember, she did finish 2nd at the Auto Club Speedway, almost winning in her NOS Energy Cup Series debut. And now here she is running in the 14th position. So what a drive in her first 2 races. Lily Cassius is going to be somebody that I feel like we'll be talking about in the future should she get a full-time ride here in the NOS Energy Cup Series. I'm just very excited to see at least what Cassius is going to be able to do in whatever other starts that she'll be making throughout the 2026 season. So far, Cassius doing a very fantastic job here in Brazil, running in 14th. There's Emily Anderson in the number 6. 43 laps complete, or now 42 rather. But Anderson right now running in the 6th position. She was doing a very fantastic job here for tonight, but unfortunately, as far as the rest of her season, it hasn't been faring too well. Just outside of the top 25 in the point standings, almost towards the top 30. But that's definitely not the way that Emily Anderson would have hoped for her season to play out, or at least to start. But right now, the all-time winningest driver, currently tied with Emmanuel Hartnett, trying to turn her season around before Martinsville next weekend. Man, oh man. I mean, I'm really hoping that we see Emily Anderson turn everything around after the performances that she's been having as of late. That has relegated her back as far back as almost top 30 in the standings. But she is pretty low in points as of right now. So, I mean, EGI altogether in points has just not been faring too well. Claire Phillips is almost back to where she was all throughout last year. Trinity Anderson, I'd have to say she is running around top 20 in points last we checked. So, I mean, we can go back and take a look at that here for now here, ladies and gentlemen. So, coming into, or at least heading into this weekend, Trinity Anderson, actually, she has been faring pretty well. She is running in the 7th position in the points standing. So, I mean, things for her are looking pretty good. But as far as this race, I would not really say the same thing here. Right now running in the 24th position, so she'll be taking a pretty decent hit after tonight if things don't wound up changing up. But how about this? Ryan Davis is a 1.5 seconds ahead of Skylar Taylor. And is now closed in on Wyatt Walker here in this 19, who is well off the pace. I'm going to try to see if he can put him a lap down here. He was 1 lap down not too long ago, but I think this time he will officially be a lap down here if Davis can get by Walker and do it in a timely manner, because Skylar Taylor is starting to close in just a little bit. The gap was 1.1 seconds the last lap. This time around, the gap has shrunk by now a total of 0.5 seconds. So the longer that Davis stays behind the 19, the closer that 41 is going to get. There's Skylar Taylor. Right now just trying to reel in the 77 of Davis, Ryan Davis, that is, to try to get that race lead away. And Skylar Taylor trying to nab their 2nd win of the season, 3rd overall in their career here in the NOS Energy Cup Series. And right now, I'd say for Skylar Taylor, they were just outside of the top 10 in the points standings. I'd say, yeah, right now running in the 14th position in points with 72 points to their name. Especially after winning Minnesota just almost 2 months ago, a little over a month and a half ago now. But I'd say for Skylar Taylor, right now doing a fantastic job, just closing in on Ryan Davis ever so slightly. The gap has now shrunk down to 0.6 of a second, almost 2/3. Separating Davis and Taylor for this top position with less than 30 laps to go here in Brazil. And Skylar Taylor just driving it in there just to get ever so closer to the big red machine. Skylar Taylor is practically right there at this point. Probably going to be at least 0.5 second is going to be the difference between the 77 and the 41. Yeah, the gap is about the same, actually. So not much, so nothing changed there. Nothing really changed at all between the 77 and the 41. But heading back through turn number 3. It's actually kind of amazing to me that Wyatt Walker's been able to stay out ahead of Ryan Davis. But that's not really good news at all, because the longer that 77 stays behind the 19, the more that 41 is going to reel in Ryan Davis. And look who that's also pulling in. That's Andrew Ramsey in the 67. So Ramsey now trying to get in on this fight for the race leads and try to make it a 3-horse race for the top spot with 25 laps to go from here in Brazil. And then a little over 1.5 seconds back from Andrew Ramsey, you got Russell Blaze here in this 29, having himself a really good run here tonight, and is definitely going to capture some more very valuable points to remain inside of the top 5 in the point standings. Maybe find himself to be right back to where he was at the tail end of last year. Maybe even in the runner-up position. That most likely might be the case, because you see where Terry Walker stacks up in the 18th position. So there's definitely a chance that we'll see Russell Blaze right back to where he was last year, runner-up in the standings. Wyatt Walker here in this number 19, trying to stay out ahead of Davis, and again, that's just not really doing any favors here for Ryan Davis, because, you know, Skylar Taylor has now closed the gap. It is now a half a second, and Andrew Ramsey not too far behind, just at least another half a second behind the 41, and 1 second back from the 77. But my goodness gracious, here things are getting a little bit interesting here between these two. And another thing that we'll have to wait for is these drivers are more than likely going to have to make one more pit stop. So we'll see exactly what happens here in the later stages of the event. They'll probably have to pit maybe within 10 to 15 laps to go here in this race. I mean, there's always a chance that somebody's going to roll the dice and maybe try to make something happen here in the later stages of the event. And what we've seen in these offline races is that the later that we go in these races that have multiple pit stops, the more split that these drivers are going to, that these strategies are going to be, the more diverse they're going to be as well, because there's going to be more drivers that are going to be trying to stretch it out just a little bit further, try to get more fuel out of the car, try to get a little bit more grip out of the tires, and before they bring their cars back down to pit road. But they'll mainly try to go as far out as they possibly can on whatever they have before they have to tap out and come to pit road. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens when we get down to at least 10 to 15 laps to go from here in Brazil. How about this for Alex Bonsignor? He's been doing a little bit better this year compared to last year. It's kind of in a similar position points-wise, but when it comes to position-wise here in this race, and especially what we've seen in previous events, he's been doing pretty well. I'd say, you know, he does have really good speed. I mean, the points unfortunately don't back up the runs that he's been having in these events, but here tonight, right now, running in the 9th position and doing a very fantastic job here in this number 22. With 20 laps to go here at the Arena Café Norte here in Brazil for the Castrol GTX Grand Prix race number 5 of the WRLA NOS Energy Cup Series. Look a little bit further back. Again, Cash is still running in that 14th position. No change there. And no changes for a lot of these other drivers since our first round of green flag pit stops, and we're definitely not going to be done with pit stops just yet. I have a feeling that we're going to have that one final pit stop right around lap 60 to lap 65, more than likely right around that area, maybe a little bit later in the going. We're just going to have to keep our eyes peeled open in case if we see anything happen later in the going. I mean, anything is possible. Anything could change here within the top 10, or at least anywhere in the field. Somebody, especially back here, could be rolling the dice and seeing exactly what they could get out of here. But as of right now, Ryan Davis could potentially score big if he's able to play his cards right. He was able to do it the first time around. It grabbed him the race lead, or at least it put him back to being in the race lead. And now looking to try to see if he can do it again, or looking to see if he can do it again if there is going to be one more round of green flag pit stops, which again, I am fairly certain that is going to be the case. And in the process of staying behind Wyatt Walker, this has also pulled in Russell Blaze here in this 29, Alex Sanvitali in the 69, and pretty much everybody else. That is essentially... Oh, here we go. Hold on a second. Hold on just a minute. This is what I was talking about. Our final round of green flag pit stops now underway. Ryan Davis is going to lead some drivers down. Wyatt Walker tags along. And this will put Emily Anderson out front here in Brazil. Bonsignor stays out, as does Alfred, and also the 20 of Lily Cassius. There's the 48 of Terry Walker. He stays out. But now let's see who else is going to be making that hard left-hand turn to stay on the left-hand side of the racetrack to come to pit road. Looks like it will be Emily Anderson who will be staying out. Bonsignor as well as Alfred, they'll be coming in, as will Cassius. And looks like Nathan, hold on a second. I think Nathan Stapleton, is Stapleton going to stay out? He will here, actually. So that's interesting. Nathan Stapleton's going to stay out. See if there's anybody else that has made the decision to stay out. I don't think there was anybody else other than Nathan Stapleton. So how about that, actually? But I think Stapleton will eventually... I mean, he is going to come on down to pit road. He is the last car to make his pit stop. And he is going to stay on the left-hand side of the racetrack. So the 97 of Nathan Stapleton going to come on down to pit road. And I believe this will put the field back into the hands of Ryan Davis, with now 14 laps of racing to go from here at the Arena Cafe Norte from here in Brazil. So as the field cycles back around, your official top 10 looks like this with 14 to go. Davis goes back out front with Emily Anderson sitting in second, Skylar Taylor in third. Then in fourth is Andrew Ramsey. Alex Bonsignor completes the top five, followed by Russell Blaze in sixth. And then in seventh is Alex Sanvitali, Avery Alford in eighth, Tanner Parton ninth, and Lily Cassius rounds out your top 10. Now has Rogel Dorn to her left-hand side. But they're going to go into turn number 5, and the advantage is going to go over to Cassius. Coming through the final corner, Dorn swings it wide. And that will allow Cassius to retain the 10th position with now 13 laps of racing to go from here in Brazil. So far, not too much else happening here. As of right now, I mean, thankfully, at least on the bright side of things, Anderson is able to hold off Skylar Taylor. But however, the bad news is this is allowing Ryan Davis to completely just pull away from Anderson. And if memory serves me right, I don't think we've had a rookie win at all this year so far. We've had I think we've had all veterans go to victory lane. We've had Zachary Fitzwater win the Daytona 500. We had Skylar Taylor in their sophomore season go to victory lane. Tanner Parton nabbed his first win of the year back at Vegas. And then Wyatt Walker at Fontana. We have yet to see a rookie win a NOS Energy Cup Series race here in 2026. And that could very well happen here tonight because of that gap that Davis has put on the rest of the field, or at least put on Emily Anderson, just about 2.5 seconds. That is actually probably the biggest lead that we've seen all year in the NOS Energy Cup level. And that's honestly super impressive to say the least here. Remember, Davis won the Xfinity Series season opener at Daytona back in February. He's towards the bottom end of the point standings, which we will review that later on if he is still in position to win. But looking to try to win his first NOS Energy Cup Series race, trying to get Davis Family Racing their first win in their 5th try here in the Cup level. They already have a win in the Truck Series with Haley Tallis going to victory lane at Minnesota. And we'll see Haley Tallis next weekend at Martinsville. But she also competed in her last Xfinity Series race, but she will be putting all of her focus on the Truck Series Championship. But here for the Cup side, they have yet to earn their first NOS Energy Cup Series win, and they are well on their way to winning in their 5th try with Ryan Davis, who started on the pole and has led at least most of the laps so far. He obviously will clinch those 5 bonus points for leading the most laps here tonight. But man, what a run it has been. What a drive it has been. And what a race it has been from here in Brazil. That gap that Davis has on Emily Anderson is continuing to grow. Just a 100th shy, or at least 100th over. 2.5 seconds on Emily Anderson, who got herself a really good pit stop to put herself in the runner-up spot and is doing a very fantastic job holding off Skylar Taylor here for this 2nd position. But I'd say the only way that we see Emily Anderson go to victory lane is if Ryan Davis winds up having some sort of mechanical issue or have a tire failure that would cause him to come to pit road and ultimately lose this race pretty much. I mean, because honestly, I haven't seen it in a while here for anybody to have as big of a gap as Ryan Davis has. I think the last time I wound up seeing something like this was back at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in 2023 with Tanner Parton going to victory lane in that race just 3 years ago. And Parton here in this race right now is running in 9th and is in very good position to retain his points lead and keep his points lead, maybe even increase it over who could potentially be our new runner-up in points, that being Russell Blaze after tonight. Which, speaking of, next weekend we will be at the Martinsville Speedway for the Virginia 500, and then we also will have the Menards Truck Series making their return for their 4th race of the season. That action goes down next weekend, Friday night for the Truck Series, and then the Cup Series will be racing on Saturday night. Both races will be live here on Twitch, so you won't want to miss that, and then you'll see the full race replays come out the very next day, and then points will follow after that. Vice versa. Coming up to 4 laps to go from here at the Arena Cafe Norte here in Brazil, and Ryan Davis continuing to grow that gap that he has over Emily Anderson. Last time around, it is a 2.65 second gap. This time by, it has to be at least 2 3/4 seconds, at least. Let's see. Actually, that gap has shrunk just a little bit, just by 1/100th, but not enough to really make too much of a difference. But my oh my, this has been a pretty interesting night and a pretty interesting weekend from here in Brazil. And these drivers are going to be ready to go short track racing next weekend at Martinsville, and then we'll be on a 2 to 3 week break, and then we'll be back in action for the month of May, and that is going to be a lot of racing with the Menards Truck Series, the Xfinity, and the Cup Series. So you won't want to miss any of the action that takes place later on in the year. Particularly in the month of May. It is going to be a very, very fun month of racing here in the NR 2003 community, as well as real life with the Indy 500, the Monaco Grand Prix, the Coca-Cola 600. It's going to be a lot of action throughout the month of May, and we're looking forward to it. But focusing back up here on tonight, 2 laps of racing to go from here in Brazil. And that gap is now starting to shrink ever so slightly, but not until now. Those 3 100ths have been basically been built back up, as Ryan Davis has no traffic around him at all. He has just been on a very early Sunday morning cruise, but on a Saturday night here in Brazil, as he's going to work his way through turn 4, heading into turn number 5. White flag is in hand, and it is waving for Ryan Davis, who leads it by 2.6 seconds over Emily Anderson. 1 lap to go from here in Brazil. Ryan Davis started on the pole here in this race, has led the most laps here tonight, and coming into this event, he is 31st in the point standings. That is going to change drastically after tonight, and the points are going to be looking a little bit different as Ryan Davis works his way through turns 4 and heading into turn 5. He won the Xfinity Series opener at Daytona just a month and a half ago, and here he comes off of turn number 5. Checkers are waving, and Ryan Davis is a NOS Energy Cup Series winner here in Brazil. Emily Anderson will finish in the 2nd position. Then in 3rd will be Skylar Taylor. Andrew Ramsey will finish in 4th. Completing your top 5, that is Alex Bonsignor. Then in 6th will be Russell Blaze. San Vitale will finish 7th. Avery Alford in 8th. Tanner Parton in 9th. And Lily Cassius continuing the run of a lifetime. 2 starts, 2 top 10s. Remember, she finished runner-up 2 weeks ago at Fontana, and now here we are here in Brazil, and she will finish in the 10th position. So pretty strong start here, and a strong statement to all the rest of these other NOS Energy Cup drivers. Lily Cassius definitely making her name known in her first 2 starts. Rogel Dorn, Michael Davis, Crown, Terry Walker, Silver, Moore, Clifton, Moore, Fitzwater, Davis, and Monaco. That's your top 20. And then here's a look at the rest of your field. And again, nobody went out of the race, thankfully, but only 1 driver finished 1 lap down from finishing first at Fontana just 2 weeks ago to unfortunately finishing at the caboose for Wyatt Walker. He'll be finishing 42nd. 1 lap down. Everybody else finished on the lead lap, but my goodness gracious, very tough break there for Wyatt Walker. But as for Ryan Davis and Davis Family Racing. They get their first NOS Energy Cup Series win with Ryan Davis at the helm here in Brazil. Want to thank you guys a lot for watching this race from here at the Arena Cafe Norte from here in Brazil. And next week, again, as I mentioned, we'll be back to racing at the Martinsville Speedway for the Virginia 500 for the Cup Series, and then the Truck Series prior to that will be making their fourth start of the year. And that all goes down next weekend on the 9th and 10th, or really the 10th and 11th, actually, I should say, next weekend at Martinsville. Want to thank you guys a lot for watching. Congratulations to Ryan Davis on winning here tonight in Brazil. If you guys like this, be sure to hit the like button and be sure to consider subscribing if you're watching on the WRLA YouTube channel in order to keep up with some fine racing content that will be posted all throughout 2026. And be sure to keep an eye on the Discord for your point standings. Those will be coming up very, very shortly. But if you're watching live on Twitch, be sure to hit the follow button so you do not miss a future stream. That would absolutely be appreciated. And one more time, congratulations to Ryan Davis on nabbing the win from here in Brazil. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your weekend, everybody. Take care, stay hyped, and we'll see you all next weekend at Martinsville.